Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, December 5th, 2018,
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
and he's on location. And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We're doing a little bit of an abbreviated show because Russ is it's at Wells Fargo, correct?
No, the Voorhees.
It's at Voorhees. Okay, he's in Voorhees, New Jersey, not named for Jason Voorhees, at the Flyers practice facility where they announced they had the opening press conference of Chuck Fletcher as the new Flyers GM. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the very entertaining game in Buffalo last night between the Leafs and Sabres and a couple other things. And we'll wrap up, do a short show and come back with a full show tomorrow. Russ, so Chuck Fletcher is in as the Flyers executive VP and general manager. Tell us what he said and what your feelings are on the direction of the Flyers.
Well, he said all the right boilerplate stuff. You know, he does still believe you have to build through the draft. So that's good to say that, and I think we all know that. Like, I don't think you have to be a GM to realize that. He didn't say he would think he would make a trade the next day or two, but then laughed and said, you never know. But, you know, he was kind of goofing around. The Western trip is really important, obviously, because this is him going with the team now, evaluating with the team. He is going to be with the coaches all the time. Mm-hmm. So all that, you know, he's going to have coffee with them in the morning. You know, again, I went through this in the corporate world when somebody would come in and evaluate, and let's say you were in sales and they literally were tailing you all day long. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to do this for a little while and they'll see what they have. They said they believe the team is good. I would question that. And I think they might find out on the Western road trip where they're at. He talked about analytics a little bit. He definitely takes that into account. He doesn't have a full grasp of everything that Ron Hextall put in place here with, you know, in regards to the diet and just the performance stuff. He said he still has to dig into that. He admitted that while he knows, you know, a lot of the scouts, he doesn't know all the prospects. He's seen some of them, but he doesn't know all of them. Mm-hmm. And he says, you know, all the coaches are good right now, and he's going to talk to them all. And, you know, he didn't say evaluate them all, but that's what's going to happen. And so right now what you see is what you got for the coaching staff. He still will probably bring in his assistant GM. Brent Flair could be that guy. We'll see what happens with Brent over time. He's a smart guy. He did talk about what was good and bad in Minnesota. He came clean. First thing, when someone asked about, you know, what did you learn from making a mistake, he brought up the Cam Barker deal, and he brought up Nick Leddy. And so, you know, there is that. I asked him in the scrum about the Niederreiter deal, and because I felt like that deal sort of mirrors what's going on with Wayne Simmons. Now, of course, you know, Clutterbuck was not the scorer Simmons was, but he did everything else for the Wild, sort of like what Simmons does here. And he did say that was a tough decision, but when they saw that they were out on the market and they couldn't find goal scoring, they saw the skill in Niederreiter and said, okay, let's roll with that. And I think that may happen now. And that's why I asked that question, because I think a similar thing is going to happen to him. And so they may have to go to somebody and look at a guy that didn't fit in before and try and get him to fit in here. And he talked about that, how that happens all the time. And it's true. I mean, that is a common occurrence. So there's a lot to be positive.
Yeah.
The hardest thing, though, the biggest challenge is he's going to meet at some point with all of the amateur scouts, and they're going to have to look at all the reports, and they're going to have to see the prospects they have, because he doesn't know them all. He hasn't seen them all play. He'll see some of them play. He'll watch them all on video. But he's going to have to make fairly quick decisions to keep these guys in a competitive, you know, mode and make decisions on high-end prospects. So that's the hardest part.
It's ironic, Russ, that he's sort of being put in the same position that his dad was put in in his second incarnation with the Leafs back in, I think it was 07, 08, where they fired John Ferguson Jr. They bring in Cliff. It's about a month or a month and a half before the trade deadline. This is the famous Muskoka Five, all the no trade guys like Tucker and McCabe and Sundin.
Yeah.
And, there's sort of an edict there to make changes to, even if it's cosmetic, even if it's change for change's sake, and get some of these players to waive the no move clause or no trade clauses. He, in the end, didn't get any of them to waive the no trade clauses before the deadline. He made cosmetic deals like trading Chad Kilger and Hal Gill and guys like that, but he didn't really accomplish a lot. And then when he came in the next year, or when he was in control at the draft, that was the famous trade up 2 slots to get Luke Shen.
Right.
And they gave up a couple draft picks to move up 2 slots. And, Luke Shen, obviously, now we know in terms of a number 5 pick, was a failure. And he also made trades like getting Mikhail Grabowski for a 2nd-round pick and Ryan Holwig from the Rangers and all these. A lot of the deals that Cliff made in his second incarnation sort of tarnished his first tenure with the Leafs, where he was extremely successful. And even the one going out the door before Brian Burke replaced him, which was Stepniak and for Kolyakovo and Steen, was not a good deal. So then not to say that the son should be tarred with the sins of the father, but when you come in the middle of the year, it is really tough to catch up.
Yeah, and he may struggle with the same thing about trying to make deals. I mean, Kevin told us weeks ago it's going to be hard to make a deal, and he was right. So that's why Hextall didn't make a deal. He didn't find a deal out there that was good. So that's still going to exist. Now, what was really kind of humorous in the press conference was someone brought up his dad, but just said, like your dad, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, yeah, I do like my dad. And he was kidding because he didn't get the question. And then he did say his dad buys good red wine. Like that's a talent of his. Mm-hmm. And so, and that was funny. And then they are going to be different guys because it is a different era. But at the end of the day, there are 5 guys here that are going to help make decisions with him. He has autonomy, but he has to still listen to everybody. They're all going to have input, and that's going to be tricky.
It sounds like autonomy in name only, honestly. I mean, you can say you have autonomy, but when you have to check with Holmgren, with Bobby Clark, with Dave Scott.
I know, it wasn't termed that way. It's not like it was termed that he has to check. It was like he's going to discuss it with everybody. And so that makes things very corporate. And we've learned over the years that when things are very corporate like that, trades are hard to come by.
Yeah. Now, folks, we're only going to do a short show today, so I'm just going to concentrate on the game that I was at last night, and we're going to talk about one other thing, but we'll go into more things tomorrow when we have a full show with Eck back and with Peter back. Russ, I was at the Leaf Sabres game last night. It was the prototypical Leaf Sabres game in the sense that it was more than 50-50 crowd-wise. I think it was maybe 55-45 or 60-40 Leaf fans to Sabres fans, which was surprising on a Tuesday night. It was an NBC SN game, so it got nationwide coverage. Apparently the ratings were really great for this game, Matthews versus Eichel. But it was a typical Buffalo visiting, Toronto visiting in Buffalo. The Sabres were on second of back-to-back games, and Toronto, I thought in the first period, sort of mailed it in. Buffalo dominated. And the team with less energy, at least going into the game, showed more energy for most of the game. Buffalo, I thought, had I think significant amount of advantage in terms of play. They had 40 shots again. Frederik Andersen again faces 40 shots for the 7th time in 8 starts. But Austin Matthews scored 1 goal, incredible goal during the game in the second period, sort of a wraparound goal. And then the goal in overtime with 2.7 seconds left, where he, fires a ridiculous shot past Linus Ullmark. And that sort of negated Jack Eichel's 2 goals. I mean, you can't say that, that matchup, Matthews versus Eichel, I think is the real rivalry, not McDavid versus Eichel because they were 1-2 in the draft. And being in the same division, those guys are going to be butting heads for the next decade. It's going to be good.
Yeah, and that will be good. The one thing about the Matthews shot, we all know how he does the shot now. We all know about the pullback and everything else. You kind of wonder why a defenseman would give him any space at all. Whoever was on him backed off and just sort of threw his stick a little bit there. But, like, you have to know as a defenseman, when you throw your stick there, Matthews is pulling the puck back anyhow. So
Right.
your only chance there is to really slash his stick and try and disrupt the shot.
Right. It was a forward. It was Sobotka, I think.
Yeah, it's a horrible play by Sobotka because he has to know what's coming. We all, right? Everybody in the building knows what's coming.
Yeah, and you know, you remember Ovechkin years ago, the book on him, everybody was like, he had those, like he had like a year and a half where he had trouble scoring goals, at least at the pace that he was scoring before. Right. And everybody was saying, well, it's because he makes the same move, that same sort of inside move coming down the wing, and defensemen got wise to it, and then he had to learn a different way to score, and he did. With Matthews, all he really has to do, because now he does that sort of pull back, change the angle, and fire. All he has to do, in a sense, is not pull it back because the goaltender's expecting to pull back, doesn't know where to go. So he's got options just by not doing what he's doing right now. He confounds the goaltenders.
Yeah, that's where I think a little video work and like someone's like Svoboka, if you're going to be on the ice 3-on-3, you got to know that, and you got to know what Matthews' tendencies are, and I don't think he did. Not to take away, it was a great shot, and clearly Matthews didn't even know time was running out. Like, that was funny that he didn't know that. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, and you know, again, Freddie Anderson, 38 saves, 37 saves, excuse me. And you know, it was a really exciting game last night, and that was the first of 4 games between the Sabres and the Leafs. Now, one other thing, and then one that will end the show. I know that after I got home from the game last night, I checked Twitter and checked some highlights, and all of a sudden my computer blew up because Ryan Reeves hit Tom Wilson. And it's like, yeah. I immediately went to Game Center Live and went back to, it was only a couple minutes old, but people were like, oh, this is that was a completely legal hit. If you look at it, it's 2 big guys. It was shoulder to shoulder, and now Reeves got a 5-minute major and a game misconduct for it. And I think he got that only because Tom Wilson doesn't strap his helmet to underneath his chin, because as he gets hit, they collide. The helmet flies off and he face plants into the ice. I think that caused whatever, because he was definitely shaken after that hit. That was the impact that hurt him, not the impact of Reeves slamming into him.
Well, it's that. And the other thing is, and I watched it like 10 times, slowed it down, like the Zapruder film. And here's the thing. With Reeves, and I heard this from other people, he clearly was waiting to do this all game.
Sure.
To line up this hit. And this is when I don't disagree with the penalty, because it was not a purposeful hit. There was no reason it had to happen. Mm-hmm. It was just because Reeves wanted to just get even with Wilson for something, or just show I'm the toughest tough guy in the league, so take this.
Right.
That's where I think that also played into why he got penalized. He's not going to get suspended or anything. No. But I think the league is also still trying to sort of monitor guys like that, like guys with just are out there for one purpose.
Right, and this was not Rule 48. He wasn't targeting the head. It was shoulder to shoulder. It was just 2 Mack trucks hitting each other.
But clearly, like, that's all he was out there to do.
Yeah, and
try and score. He wasn't trying out there to try and make a play. He was out there to try and line up this hit with Tom Wilson.
Right,
Wilson, to be fair, didn't see it coming. He did not.
But somebody was debating with me online after. It says it was blindside. It was not blindside. It was
blindsided, but he didn't see it coming.
Right. The hit was on time. It was not a late hit.
No,
it was not a head hit.
It wasn't. One more thing before we go. I did watch the Tampa game, and they had a pretty remarkable comeback where Kucherov won it in the shootout. Like, this is a team now, if you look at the way they're scoring at I don't want to say it's a historic clip, but it's a pretty amazing clip right now. The amount of goals per game, the amount of 5-goal games or something that they've had.
Yeah.
Coming back in that one, I think they were down 3-1 in that one.
Yeah, with Eddie Pasquale in goal and a career AHL.
Remember, I told you there was a time where I liked Eddie Pasquale and thought he had a chance to become an NHL goalie, and then he sort of, he gets off the radar. He takes this long, circuitous route. But Eddie Pasquale played well, and he made a save against Franz Nielsen in the shootout, which, again, Franz Nielsen is the all-time leading shootout guy in the NHL, and he made a really nice save on that. Like, Pasquale deserves a little credit, and this could be Tampa's year. Like, this is one of those little signs that everything is just going right for this team.
Well, I was asked, I did a radio spot on a Buffalo radio station yesterday before the Sabres-Leafs game, and one of the hosts asked me who I thought the best team in the NHL was, and I think they were expecting me to say the Leafs because I covered them, but I said Tampa because they're continuing to win with Louis Domingue and Eddie Pasquale in goal, and they're doing this without Vasilevsky. They're doing it without Palat. I don't know if I don't know if Killorn is. I know that Hedman has been back for a while. They may be doing it without Strong.
Hedman played great. He was there. I will tell you this: Ryan McDonough will never win a Norris because of Victor Hedman, but Ryan McDonough is playing at the absolute top of his game again.
Yes, and okay, and I know that this is, they'll call me one note Charlie when it comes to this thing, but that is the blueprint that Kyle Dubas has to follow, because they have a number one defenseman in Hedman. Like, the Leafs have a number one in Riley. Now, I think Hedman is more impactful than Riley, but just say that they're in the same stratosphere. Yeah. They've got a number two in McDonough, who is a 25-minute night guy who plays penalty kill, can play the power play if you need it, plays an all-star
on 3 too,
Yeah, I mean, there is the depth on their blue line on top of Strowman, on top of the veterans, on top of Sergachev. They have another guy who is a steady 25-minute a night defenseman. And last night, Ron Hainsey made a bad play on one of the goals. Jake Gardner is, he plays endless minutes, but there are gaps there. And I know that Dubas, when I asked him a question on Monday about using their cap space at the deadline, he essentially said, yeah, we're going to go all out. We're going to, we know they have a cap run, a cup run possibly here, but they're going to come up either in the first or second round against Tampa. And that's like a battle
that's a tough one, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Anderson and Vasilevsky are about even. I think the forwards are about even. I think the defense is the advantage for Tampa. But like I said, we'll talk.
Yeah, when things get tight, the defense usually is the difference.
Yeah. All right. We'll call it here, and like I said, we'll be back tomorrow with a full show. But thanks, Russ from New Jersey, and Mike here from Buffalo. Thanks for watching. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.